All right, we're moving on to 9-2 today. So our objective is to graph quadratic functions in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So we want to be able to graph basically any quadratic function. Read this getting ready problem. Okay, take note of this part over here where it says be careful. And pause the video, see if you can answer these questions. And this has a lot to do with later on in the chapter. Okay, so assuming you pause the video, it says you throw a ball straight up in the air and catch it the same height. So this is 4 feet right here. So you throw it up, maybe you throw it up underhand or wherever you release the ball is at 4 feet, and then you catch it at 4 feet also. So it never actually hits the ground at 0. So it doesn't touch the ground, so that's important to know. And it also tells you that it reaches its peak after 1 second, and then you catch it after 2 seconds. So this question right here, for how long does the ball travel up? Well, it goes up for 1 second, and it goes down for 1 second. So the total time in the air would obviously be 2 seconds. Then it says, what is the total distance the ball travels? Okay, so I'm not measuring this trajectory right here. I'm not measuring this curve. I just want to know how far it travels. Well, it travels from 4 feet up to, this is in increments of 4, so 8, 12, 16, and 20. So it reaches its height of 20 feet after 1 second. So if we wanted to write that in terms of x, y, we could say x is time. So at 1 second, it's at 20 feet. Right? So it goes up from 4 feet to 20 feet. That's 16 feet on the way up. And then it goes down 16 feet. So the total distance that this travels is 16 plus 16. So it goes 32 feet because it never actually hits the ground. And this is 20 right here. All right. So moving on here, problem 1, graphing y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. What is the graph of the function? So the first thing we have to do, there's a kind of a list of steps that we have to follow, is we have to find the axis of symmetry. So I'm going to do that in yellow. So the axis of symmetry, we have to use a little formula here, is, we'll write it down, axis of symmetry, I'll abbreviate, is going to be negative b over 2a. Okay, and I have to identify all my values over here to do that. So a is going to be 1, b is going to be negative 6, and c is going to be 4. Okay, so I have to know those things. So my axis of symmetry is negative b over 2a. So my negative b value is going to be negative, and then I have a negative 6, and then 2, and my a value is 1. So when I find my axis of symmetry, this is going to be a negative and a negative is a positive there, so it's 6 over 2, which is going to be 3. Okay, so my axis of symmetry is x equals 3. So I'm going to go over here to 3, and I'm just going to make a dashed line at 3. That's my axis of symmetry. And I'm going to highlight that in yellow. Okay, so I've got that. Then what I need to do is I need to find the vertex. So I have to find the vertex right here. So how do I find the vertex? Well, I have 3 for my x value. I just got to find my y value. So it's somewhere on this axis of symmetry. Okay, that's where the parabola is symmetrical. It would fold based on this line. So I have 3, and I would plug in 3 back into the function. So to find my y value, I would do y equals, anywhere I see an x, this is 3 right here, I would plug in 3. So it's 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 4. So I have y equals 9 minus 18 plus 4. And 9 minus 18 is negative 9, plus 4 is going to be negative 5. So this is going to be 3, negative 5. Oops. So my vertex is over 3 down negative 5. Okay, and I know that my a value is a positive 1. So right away I know this thing is going to open upward. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I know it's going to open upward. Okay, the next step is I want to plot some points on here. So I'm going to make a table. And the easiest value to plug in here is probably 0, maybe 1, maybe 2. So when I plug in 0, I get y equals 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 4. So when I plug in 0, I get 4. So I go over 0, up 4. Hey, when I plug in 1, 1 squared minus 6 times 1 plus 4. That would equal 1 minus 6 plus 4. Which is going to be negative 5 plus 4, negative 1. Okay, so I get negative 1, over 1, down 1. And I can also plug in 2. So I'll erase this, plug in 2. So I get y equals 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 4. And this is going to be 4 minus 12 plus 4. So basically 8 minus 12 is going to be negative 4. So 2 negative 4. Okay, and then what I can do is I can just draw this half of the parabola. I can just kind of sketch it. And I can also reflect, because this is symmetrical, I can reflect this across. So this is 1, 2 away from my axis of symmetry, so that's 2 away. This is going to be 3 away right here. So it's going to be symmetrical like that. Okay, when you guys were in first grade or kindergarten, probably remember some butterfly project where you get a piece of paper, you fold it in half, and you paint one side, fold it in half, open it up, and you got this beautiful butterfly. Well, this is kind of like that. You can fold this in half. One side is the same as the other. So all these points over here, we didn't need to plug those in over here in this table. All we had to do was reflect it across this axis of symmetry. Okay, let's look at got it 1. So I want you to try this one on your own. So try all of those steps and see what you get. So go ahead and pause the video, try those steps. All right, so assuming you pause it, let's do the same thing. So the first thing I want to do is find the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. And if I label all of these, a is going to be 1, negative 1, so I know it's going to open downward. B is going to be 4, and C is going to be negative 2. So I probably want to know those. So I have x equals negative b over 2a, so this is going to be negative 4 over 2 times negative 1. So this is negative 4 over negative 2, which is going to be 2. Okay, so my axis of symmetry, I'll always mark it with a dotted line. And since you guys have a highlighter, you can highlight it in yellow. So that's my axis of symmetry. That would be step 1 if you want to put some type of list together. Step 2, you got to find the y value. So I know this is going to be 2. So I'm going to go back up here, and wherever I see a x, I'm going to plug in 2. So I get y equals negative and then 2 squared. That negative is hanging out in front, so that's going to be negative 4. And then you got to be careful about that part right there. The negative is outside, so you don't put in the negative on the inside of the parentheses. And then I have 4 times 2 minus 2. So this is negative 4 plus 8 minus 2. So we get y equals negative 6 plus 8 is 2. So this is going to be at 2, comma 2. And I know it's going to open downward. All right, let's get a couple more points here. Don't have to get too many more. But let's plug in 1 and let's plug in 0 and 1. So I'm going to make a table over here. following the steps. Step 1, find the axis of symmetry. Step 2, find the vertex. And the vertex is going to be 2, 2. So 2, 2 is the vertex right there if you want to mark it. And then I'm going to shrink this up and keep working on this table. So I'm going to plug in 0, and I'll just plug in 1. So when I plug in 0, I get y equals negative x squared plus 4x minus 2. I'm just replacing these with 0. Okay, and since both of these have a 0 in them, the only thing that's going to be left is negative 2. So your c value is an easy one to get. It's always going to be your y-intercept, so negative 2. So I'll plot that. And I can reflect that one also. That's going to be 2 away over here. When I plug in 1, go back here, plug in a 1, and I get y equals negative 1. Because I have parentheses around that, I'm not plugging in a negative 1, I'm plugging in a 1. So the negative stays out in front. So this is plus 4 times 1 is plus 4 minus 2. And that is going to be a positive 1. And I could reflect that point also. So I have this graph that opens downward like that because my a value is negative. Okay, so hopefully you got that. And we will maybe talk about this problem. We'll talk about that during our Zoom meeting. For now, I just want you to understand the steps of how to graph a quadratic function. So finding the axis of symmetry, finding the vertex, creating a table, and knowing that the y-intercept is the c value when you plug in 0. I hope that helps you guys out. The homework is, we're not breaking 9-2 into day 1 and day 2. We're just doing 9-2 all in one. So the homework is 1 through 19 all. So let's see where that is here. 9-2, here it is. So we're 1 through 19 odds. Sorry, 1 through 19, we're doing the odds. Okay, so you may have to insert some graphs, or you can just, sketch a graph like that.